Hello and welcome to the romance track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z Martin, and tonight we are talking about Winter Wonderland romance. What makes us want to snuggle up in front of a fire with our best partner? But before we get into some of the specifics there, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Langella, and I write male romance with my writing partner, Ari McKay.
Okay, Layla.
Hi, I'm Layla Dorine. I write LGBTQ fiction and romance, heavy on a lot of shifters and bikers and rockers, and of course, winter themes.
Very good. Jeannie.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeanne Adams. I write urban fantasy, paranormal romantic suspense, and space adventure with my friend Nancy Northcott. And yeah, winter.
And I'm Gail Z Martin, and Morgan Brice. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But I've definitely got my share of winter snuggles. Let's start out with what makes winter romantic in your mind. Rachel?
Oh, that's easy. You have to snuggle to keep warm sometimes. And plus, is there anything more atmospheric than like a fireplace and a cup of something hot, tea, coffee, whatever, and then just kind of having the lights off and just the fire. It's just a an atmospheric time of year as long as you're indoors, and can stay warm, and it just kind of lends itself to snuggling and cuddling and romance.
Okay. Layla?
I think it's the outdoor activities. You have so many fun winter things you can be doing, especially that's going to require you to get cold so that you can warm each other up, but also just that you can get fun and creative with the summer activities depending on, like, I write a lot of characters who like to snowmobile and ice skate and make snow forts and then have a giant paintball fight with them, or they like to be outdoors and doing something. And then when you add shifter elements to it, you open yourselves to all kinds of awesome animals that you can, snow leopards and snowy owls and all kinds of critters that like being out in winter. And you can really have fun with shifters frolicking together in the snow and adding new levels to the relationship that way, especially if you've got a warm weather shifter and a cold weather shifter. That can be a lot of fun with the cold weather shifter having to really keep that, warm weather shifter bundled up, especially, like, can you imagine putting an aquatic shifter in a, snowy, like, especially like a sea turtle or some kind of aquatic warm, water shifter with a cold-blooded, snow leopard or something. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for the snow leopard to keep a sea turtle warm. So,
Okay. Jeannie?
Well, I mean, Rachel and Layla have both said some of the big things, but and like Layla was saying, the winter sports, you've got Winter Olympics, and if it's before the turn of the year, you've got the holidays. If it's after the turn of the year, you've got New Year and skiing and après ski, and you've got all the things that, as everybody has said, lend to going out and getting hot and sweaty together, and then coming in and getting all snuggly together, or the opposites, as Layla was saying. And for me, it's one of my favorite times of year because it's a time of quiet. There's nothing like that quiet of snow, and your characters have to really reflect sometimes on who they are and what they want. And I think that comes so much more easily in a winter setting. So I love it. I love winter settings.
Well, I grew up just south of Erie, Pennsylvania, so we got a lot of snow when I was growing up. And when it's nice and fresh and fluffy, it's very romantic and very pretty, and that's what they, film for the movies. And we just won't even talk about after it's been down for a while and plowed and, salted and all that. But I agree, as long as you've got a good heating system, you can definitely be warm by snuggling each other. If the heat goes out, You may need to keep a few layers on just to prevent frostbite in sensitive places, but it's the thought that counts. And since we're controlling the environment as the authors, we can make it conducive to snuggling and getting naked and having fun with each other. So yes, much more romantic when we actually control the situation than sometimes when you're stuck with what you've got.
Yes.
So give us an example of winter romance that you've written and how did you pick those circumstances, Rachel?
Okay. I'm looking at our list to refresh my memory. Sorry. Um, we tend to do quite a few holiday stories. Uh, I don't know. I guess I don't know if we've ever actually done one that's just like January, the heart of winter where, like Jeannie was saying, and I agree, I think it's a really good time for introspection and reflection because you're at the, shortest days of the year. There's a lot of darkness, especially depending on where you live, and not a whole lot to do in shorter days. And if you're like me and you don't like the outside stuff, sorry, it's like outdoor activities, no thank you, I don't want to get cold and wet. So yeah, you're inside and kind of you don't have a whole lot of else to do but think a lot. But we tend to go for December and sometimes February, of course, for Valentine's Day. So we have probably, gosh, we started a series, Designer Holiday. We created a town called Holiday Pines in North Carolina, and it was intended to be sort of like a queer riff on a Hallmark movie. The inspiration was Hallmark Christmas movies, and we wrote down a bunch of standard Hallmark plots and then picked the one that we thought would be the most fun to write. And this one was small town boy leaves for the big city and becomes well known and then has to come back to his little small town and meet his old flame, and can sparks fly anew, that kind of vibe. And it was of course during the holidays, and they were renovating a theater together. So yeah.
Okay, Layla?
Well, I actually did four winter holiday romances this year. So one of the things that was a challenge was keeping each one different. So I ended up having two of them that were set in very warm places. Six Stinger Stinging was my jellyfish shifter. And since it was a tentacles holiday, I was like, well, this is going to be fun because I already knew I wanted to do a jellyfish shifter for my tentacled creature. And setting it on the island of Guam, having experienced six Christmases there, let me kind of weave in, like they've got neat Christmas carols like Jungle Bells instead of Jingle Bells and just little things like that. So getting to weave in bits of the island and the culture and everything really let me do a holiday set in somewhere unique that wasn't snowy, to contrast the fact that for shifters I had Leo and Lace, which was my snow leopards meet their human fated mate, and they're all at this cabin, and it's double booked for the holidays, and it's snowy, and they're not really going anywhere because they're already on vacation, so that's where they're going to be. And so that book was a lot more contained towards the snow and the outdoor activities and the fated mates and the bonding. So I really, when I look at Christmas, because I've experienced it in different places around the world, it's just fun working those traditions and different things in. My other contemporary one, not so much contemporary because it's daddies and littles, but it's in a contemporary setting, was A Little Christmas Song. And one of the amazing things about that was, again, snowy area, but it was set around Baltimore. So the characters end up going to New York and they're skating at Rockefeller Center and they're taking in the sights. And, you've got the gray slush on the street because snow doesn't last long in New York with people walking and stepping on it and running it over. But they also had those quiet moments of sledding behind the house. And, there was the one daddy, there's two daddies in that story and two littles. And one of the daddies reminded me a great deal as I was writing him when it came to grilling to my stepdad, who would be outside in a parka and boots grilling on the deck in the middle dead of winter. And I mean, I've seen him do it with, there's about 4, 5, 6 inches of snow around the legs of the grill, and he's standing there boots deep in the snow. So my daddy character's out there grilling in the middle of winter, just having fun with it and getting stuff ready while the other daddy's sledding with the littles. So just being able to take the main theme of whatever it happens to be that we were given and doing something different with it. Since I do holiday books every year, this is like the fourth year in a row. So now I've really had to get like, all right, we got to do something a little different, bring in another holiday activity we haven't maybe done before, and going through the list of the ones that I personally know so that I can weave them in there. Otherwise, I'm going to be in here reading tutorials on how to build gingerbread houses just so I can try to stick one together and be like, okay, so this is what my characters are facing. Yes, I've already done that for one. That's why I had it to reference.
Okay. Jeannie?
Oh gosh, I love cold weather stories, so I have several of them, but probably the most recent is a story in my Haven Harbor Witches series called Crashing Through the Snow, which is set just after the new year. And it's a second chance at love story. And basically, my hero crashes his car at the bottom of her driveway, kind of unintentionally. But his pregnant sister is with him, and they have a sleigh and four big horses. So I got to go crashing through the snow in a sleigh. I got to have a murder mystery. Got to have a second chance at love, and lots and lots and lots of snow, and some gingerbread in there too, Layla, because what's the holidays without gingerbread? And I have a story that I haven't put up yet, but it's two chefs at a competition. Layla, you mentioned North Carolina. I'm from the western part of North Carolina. And
Oh,
at
that was Rachel.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm in Eastern North
oh,
Carolina.
I'm sorry.
Hi.
But hi. Um, my I grew up some of my growing up years in Asheville. And in addition to the wonderful Biltmore House, there is the Grove Park Inn. And the Grove Park Inn is this absolutely grand, glorious old hotel, sort of in the robber baron era of hotels. And it has ox roasting fireplaces, and the mantles on the fireplaces are stones that are like Stonehenge stones, like beautiful, just gorgeous. But every year they have a gingerbread house competition. And you literally walk in the door and the entire place smells like gingerbread.
Mm.
It doesn't matter that the gingerbread is in like wings, different wings. The whole place smells like gingerbread. So it was so much fun to bring that atmosphere into a story, not only having the competition and having, because one of them is a judge and one of them is a competitor, and having the lovely conflicts of this is great, but this is not a blind judging. I know who she is. Do I recuse myself? What, and and having the scent of the season, the decorations, all of those things. So having one that was after the holidays was still fun because snow, and I love snow. And then having one like during the holidays, super fun to do that too, because like Layla said, you want to try to make things different. You want to try to find things that are not just the run of the mill. Like Rachel, you were saying, like go through all the tropes that
Yeah.
the Hallmark movies use and find something that's new and fresh. And so I was playing with gingerbread.
Okay. Um, I've done a lot of winter stories for different anthologies and short stories and all of that, but my Fox Hollow series is set in the Adirondacks in New York, which is pretty far up there toward the Canadian border. And it's fun writing about winter with those characters because they're shifters. And if they're a
Mhm.
fox or a wolf or one of the other wild critters that shifts, they take the winter in stride if they don't hibernate. And if they do hibernate, well, they'll be curled up with someone they love. But that's it's fun to see the winter through their eyes because
Mhm.
um, they have a human side to provide for them, so they can just enjoy their animal side and romp in the snow with each other. And so that kind of brings a whole different level of just playfulness to the idea of winter romance. Now, there are certainly a lot of winter holidays for a number of different religions and secular holidays. Do you write about any of the winter holidays? And if so, how do you approach them? Rachel?
We tend to focus on like Christmas and Yule. Um, we got a number of books and also novellas and shorter stories that we wrote for the holiday season. I think, like you, Gail, they've appeared in anthologies, and just dealing with one of them was about a young man bringing his potential partner home to meet his big family for the first time over the holidays.
I love that.
Um,
I love that.
yeah. And then there was one, we both knit. And so in knitting culture, there's this thing called the boyfriend sweater curse. And
Oh, I have to hear this.
okay, so the superstition among knitters is do not knit your potential partner, male or female, a sweater before you're married, because if you do, you will break up. And so we
So
had,
cool.
yeah, and so we had a story that was kind of based around that, that was set in the holidays, because the protagonist was making the grave mistake of knitting a sweater and rolling those dice. Um, so yeah,
I
we've
love it.
explored different facets of the holidays, like Christmas, Yule, and then out to Valentine's Day. I think we've done one New Year's. So we tend to stick to the big ones, like
Okay.
the most capitalistic, well-known ones.
Okay. Layla?
I've covered Christmas, of course, just for being in the shared worlds. And I've done a Thanksgiving scene that was part of a book, but not anything around it. Yule, I've done in several books, and Valentine's Day. Um, really, I don't try to focus so much on the holiday itself as the characters building up to the holiday, because the holiday is usually like a very small portion of the story. So I'm working on like all the neat stuff getting there. Some, one character who like hadn't decorated in forever, so he's got no trees, got no lights, got no nothing in the house. So him and his boy, they're going out to go find a tree. Well, the daddy's, a little bit older. It's an age gap book. So he's more of a traditionalist, and he takes the boy to go look at the trees at the tree farm and at the tree lot. Well, Ryu doesn't want a real tree because, in his words, they killed it. So to him, that isn't part of the holiday. That's not a part of the holiday he enjoys. So for having them discover that together and then go to a super center and look for, the false trees. Well, my guy's a biker daddy. They ended up with a Nightmare Before Christmas tree, and everything was black and white and purple that they got for this tree. And it completely fit both of the characters, their personalities, their vibe, and everything, and getting the new ornaments and the new stockings and everything. And of course, Ryu has made friends with Hank's cat. So they've got to get treats for the cat and toys for the kitty and all of that stuff. And then just with that book, one of the things that I personally wove in was because around here where I live, we have long, cold winters. I'm in the middle of Iowa. And for the last couple of years, last 3 years running, actually, we have ended up with a new indoor cat because people leave them out, and these poor little kitties are freezing. And like we had one come in at last February on literally the coldest day of the year, and he was yowling because his little paws were frostbitten.
Mm.
So in the book, Hank actually ends up rescuing three little kittens, because I wanted to highlight that this is also a season that, yeah, lots of people are, doing the happy, happy, joy, joy, but they're also gifting their kids animals, which you should never do, in my personal opinion, unless you are going to be the one responsible for them, not the children, because they end up abandoned a few months after Christmas. And sometimes, not even, oh, they get scratched or whatever, and the cat's there for the dog is there for a couple weeks. So I wanted to highlight that, of them rescuing these three poor little kittens from the snow on Christmas Eve, as a reminder too that, like, hey, responsible pet ownership this season, pay attention. These little guys are out there freezing while you're in your warm house with your lights and your packages and your fancy stuff. So
Okay. Jeannie?
Well, like everyone said, I've done also some shorts and some novellas that have been in unusual settings, but I've done some things too with the depression that comes at the holidays for some people, and the sense of loneliness and the sense of, you know, outside looking in. Because that's something that winter is, seasonal affective disorder. All of us have a touch of it, no matter, it's a sliding scale, like many things, where, sometimes it can really get to us and sometimes it can't. But it's been fun to use all the holidays with that effect. I mean, from Thanksgiving, where it's supposed to be a family holiday, family gathering, and having it be Friendsgiving instead of Thanksgiving, where everybody decides. I have a short story that has come down from an anthology, haven't put it back up yet, where uh, everybody ends up coming together at essentially someone's house for a Friendsgiving because they all ended up stomping out of their family events. And I've used Yule, of course, because my Haven Harbor Witches, I use both Yule and February 2nd, which is Imbolc, which is the start of the spring holidays, and all the way to Valentine's, like Rachel was saying, because you can get snow all the way to Valentine's, and it's really, really cold sometimes, all the way past Valentine's.
we got snow in May one year.
Yeah, I lived in Cleveland, Ohio, for a short time, and the last snow was like May 11th. It was crazy. That was some very, very snowy years. But so using the holidays for me gives you a way to, obviously, the winter theme. You've got all the fun things about winter that we've already talked about, but you can play up both the differences or similarities. You can play up the issues of, like, the trees, like Layla was talking about. Whose decorating style are we going to use?
Mm.
Are we going blue and white? Are we going green and red? And it's not my tradition, but I've used Hanukkah before, and with sensitivity readers and trying to make sure I'm not stepping on any toes, and also Diwali. And because it's all about the return of light to the world, and are we being respectful of that and bringing light to each other? And I love that about the winter holidays, because no matter the tradition, it's really about light returning to the world. And so, even if you're in the most pagan of pagan traditions, my favorite, it's really about light and care and kindness. And so for me, those winter holidays, even if you're flipping the script and talking about how you may feel alone at that time, because I'm a romance author, nobody's ever alone for long.
Yeah, I think all of those things. I've done a number of Christmas short stories, and in my longer running series, sooner or later they get around to celebrating the winter holidays. And since I write male-male romance, sometimes people can't go home to their family. And it may be that somebody's family has passed away, but it may also be that their family isn't accepting of their life choices and their partner. And that means striking out on your own and having to create your holiday from, the ground up and figure out, well, what pieces matter the most to you. and what pieces give you the holiday feeling. And when you're with a partner, how do you share that? How do you blend the traditions? How do you bring a little bit of the pieces that you're both the most fond of together? And just like in any marriage, what do you make new out of all the pieces? And I think that's one of the most fun things about writing a romance that takes place uh, at the holidays is seeing people, especially if they're new in the relationship, kind of bring their pieces together. And, it may not fit immediately, but finding the way to make the pieces fit to make something completely new. And that's very exciting and very romantic in its own way.
You know, it's
Go
funny
ahead.
too, because I think you've done this at least in one of your books, Gail, where those bringing of the separate pieces together, it's also the permission, your partner giving you permission to let go of pieces that don't fit anymore.
Hmm.
And I can't remember which of your books it was, but I'm pretty sure it was one of yours.
Hmm.
And that was just such a one of those moments to me where I went, "Oh, that is so cool."
Hmm.
Because, we sometimes carry these traditions, especially in the winter and the holidays, and doing things because we've always done it that way. And
Hmm.
then our partner, our new partner, our familiar partner, our second chance partner says, you don't have to do that. You can choose a new path. And especially around those kind of big family events, it's often very hard to find the courage to do that. And having a partner that says, I got you, is a
Hmm.
fun thing to do, especially in a romantic setting, because that's saying, hey, I'm with you. I don't care about that thing that they
Hmm.
said you had to do. So I just wanted to put that in.
No, no,
Yeah.
that's an important part with romance because you're creating a new couple, a new household, and that means maybe leaving behind some of the things that fit with where you grew up and who you grew up with or who you used to be with. And you're right, giving yourself permission to let go of the pieces that don't work with this relationship and with who you are now, because the world changes and we change.
Yeah.
Um,
There was a
so,
quote, I don't know where it came from, so I can't cite my sources, but there's a quote that tradition is just peer pressure from dead people.
I love it.
And
Awesome.
that's what Jeannie made me think about when she was talking about it, because yeah, it is. It's like tradition, you could clutch the pearls about breaking it, but yeah, you can. And that is liberating for
Mhm.
some people.
So, speaking of traditions, what's one of your favorite or most unusual holiday tradition for a winter holiday? Rachel?
Ooh. Um I'm going to be cliche and say I really enjoy um, decorating the Christmas tree, because we don't have an aesthetic. We have it's an eclectic mix of all kinds of ornaments that go all the way back to my grandmother. And so every year when I unwrap them, it's like unwrapping a little bit of personal history, nostalgia, memory. And a lot of them, I have actual memories attached to them myself, of things that have happened or when we got them, when, who picked it out and whatnot. So for me, I like that because it is just, I'm kind of sentimental that way, and I like history. I'm very history oriented, and memories. And so for me, Christmas ornaments can be um, physical memory reminders and triggers. So I
Okay.
enjoy that.
Okay. Layla?
I've used the carving of the Yule log in one of my books, Leo and Lace, actually, because it's something that we do here, and we usually put one thing we're thankful for from the previous year and one hope or wish for the year to come when we carve ours. But the other one that I've used in a couple is just the reading under the tree by the lights and having that time to just enjoy the lights. I love everything to do with the lights. I am not I am not a fan of a lot of the other Christmas traditions, but I will keep lights up year round because I love the twinkle lights, the fairy lights, the way they sparkle. So like we've left the lights up in the living room and my bedroom is actually covered in purple lights because I absolutely love the lights and watching, laying there and reading or talking or listening to music with that light, just those little twinkling lights blinking on the walls and creating shadows and just creating that beautiful ambiance that goes with it, but also loading up in the car to go look at the lights.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That is another favorite. Like I have a
Yeah.
friend who, and yes, I'm glad it was a mild winter because we got on the back of his trike in full leathers and went riding around on a motorcycle in December in Iowa to look at the light.
That's hardcore.
It was cold. It was he definitely owed me spiked cocoa by the end of that one. But it was beautiful because you didn't have the car window to get in the way and the metal,
Mhm.
you're not in a cage. There's nothing blocking your view. So you're out there and you're enjoying looking at the lights and, shivering a little bit and maybe cursing your life choices just a smidge. But all those things have worked their ways into different stories.
That's cool. Jeannie?
Gosh, so many traditions that I love using, that I just love, but also that I love using in stories. While I was still a churchgoer, the hanging of the greens was one of my absolute favorite things. That was just one of those traditions where it was just an amazing thing to transform a simple space like a church interior into this greenwood, really. And it's for the pagan in me, it's like, yeah, we're bringing it in. And the music at the holidays, whether that's secular music or church music, caroling, those sorts of things, I've used all of those in stories just simply because they're favorites of mine. One of the only things I miss about being in church is the music. And so that music tradition at the holidays is always just such a wonderful, wonderful thing and emotional in a lot of ways. And so bringing that into story can also be a way to bring, how you confront your emotions, how you deal with your emotions. Um, and like Layla said, I love going and looking at the lights and seeing who's put up lights, who hasn't put up lights, who put up lights this year and didn't put them up last year or didn't put them up this year and maybe you need to worry about them. And Rachel, I saw a meme thing that basically said, "Don't worry about curating. It should look like Joy threw up in the house." I am all over that. That's the
Yeah.
way I treat Christmas. Of
Yep.
course, it's also the way I treat Halloween. So,
Yep. Same.
That works. Well, we have three full-size trees, one in the family room, one in the foyer, and one in the dining room. And they're all like 8-foot trees, big around, and they have different general themes. The one in the family room is the most traditional. It's got more of the older ornaments that my husband and I remember from when we were little that have come to us since the parents passed, or that we, associate with the kids who are now grown. And it's got more of the nostalgia pieces on it. The older ornaments, the blown glass, those kinds of things are more on the family room tree. The one in the foyer, which is more of a narrow and tall tree, I think of as the formal tree. It's more white and gold with the lights, and it's got more themed ornaments. Of course, if any of the ornaments that we already had were white and gold, they went on that tree. So it's a mix of new things and heritage things with a color theme where, the one in the family room is just a little bit of everything, colored lights and all of that. Um, and then the one in the dining room is the least formal. It's got colored lights. It's got ornaments that my kids made when they were little. It's got ornaments that came down through the family that were not necessarily as pretty or finished as some of the other ones, but they hold a lot of memories. And it's got the tie-in ornaments, the Star Wars ornaments, the Star Trek ornaments, the ornaments that tie into all of our favorite fandoms. You know, the Serenity is there right next to the Enterprise and the Millennium Falcon. And, you know, if you didn't know we were nerds before, you would when you looked at that tree. And that is just the fun fandom informal tree. And I love all of them. Even when I'm taking it down, putting it away at the end of the year, I still love having them up. And I will say that we put them up early and take them down a little on the later side. Well, folks, we have run through our time, so I want to make sure we get a chance to go around, have everybody say where we can find you online, and if you have a new, recent, or upcoming book, tell us about it. Rachel?
Okay. You can find our work, Rachel Langella, that brand, and the Ari McKay. I didn't say this up top, but the Rachel Langella books tend to be more paranormal and historical, and then the Ari McKay books are very contemporary, more realistic. And they can all be found at arimckay.com. We do have a new Road to Rocktober book. We've been participating in that series for the last 2 or 3 years. I've lost track. This is either year 3 or year 4. I think maybe year 4. And so that will be coming out later this year.
Very good. Layla?
Well, you can find me at Layla Dorine, author at Wix.com, Rainbow Lyrics and Mellow Mushrooms, which is my blog, all over Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky. My last release was Daddy's Precious Pets, which came out on the 21st of last month and was part of the Lacton Brotherhood. And my next release is going to be Friday, actually. Oh my gosh. Infernal Ruby, that is co-written by myself and TL Travis. We have that as book 3 of our Primordial Protectors coming out
That's
on
the
Friday.
dragon book, right?
That is Dragon Shifters, yes.
Awesome.
And we
dragon.
also have a book coming out at Rocktoberfest this year. It'll be our second co-written book, and it is More Than Words, which follows up last year's More Than Scars.
Very cool. Jeannie?
Well, you can find me at jeanneadams.com. You can find me on most social media, and you can obviously find me here on Continual a lot. My last release was, you can see it up there. It's in the Mercedes Lackey anthology, Smoke and Mirrors. And I should have several standalone things coming out this year as I get caught up on my backlog.
Yay! Well, I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com, morganbrice.com. If you spell those right, you'll find me on all the social media platforms. The next book coming out is Necessities in our Fox Hollow Shifter series. And so we're hard at work on the edits for that, but I am looking forward to having that out soon. So thank you so much to all of you for being wonderful, wonderful panelists. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more romance on Continual, so we'll see you online.